Did you know that only about a third of people say they're truly happy? That's a surprisingly low number, but it also raises an important question. What if happiness isn't just something that we passively wait for? What if we can train our brains and our minds to be happier, just like we can train our bodies to get stronger? In today's video, I want to talk about the concept of rewiring our brains for happiness. And just to be clear, this isn't touchy-feely, fluffy self-help stuff. It's actually based in science, and it relates to something called neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to change, adapt, and rewire itself throughout our lives. For a long time, people, scientists, researchers thought that the brain was pretty much fixed after childhood, like it couldn't grow or change much once we hit adulthood. But in the past few decades, research has shown that our brains remain flexible throughout our lives. The way we think, the habits we build, and even the way we respond to stress or joy can change the structure of our brains. And this is why neuroplasticity is so important in building a sense of happiness and contentment in life. Now, the concept of happiness can feel like a bit of a moving target, especially in our current society. We're constantly bombarded by messages telling us that happiness is just around the corner. If we just had the perfect job or the perfect relationship or lifestyle, then we'd finally feel good. We'd finally feel happy. But what happens when we achieve those things and happiness doesn't stick? It can feel pretty frustrating, pretty demoralizing, pretty discouraging. And this is the phenomenon that we call the hedonic treadmill. We chase after things that make us happy for a while, like a new car or a vacation or a big promotion at work. But eventually, when we get those things, we adapt and the happiness fades. And it's a cycle that leaves us feeling like we're constantly striving and trying and running, but never really getting anywhere. And part of the problem is that our brains are wired to focus on what's missing or what's wrong. Evolutionarily, this helps us survive. Back in the day, if we didn't notice a potential threat, we could end up in real danger. But today, this tendency means that we're often focused on symbolic threats, stress, problems, and anxieties instead of the things that make us feel good and feel happy. And over time, the way we think and respond to stress or joy or even boredom becomes ingrained in our brains. Negative thought patterns, like constantly worrying about the future or feeling like we're not good enough, they become like these well-worn paths in our brain. And this is where neuroplasticity comes in. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change its structure and functioning in response to our experiences, our thoughts, and our behaviors. It's a bit like how muscles grow stronger when we exercise. The more we practice certain ways of thinking or acting, the stronger those pathways in the brain become. So to understand neuroplasticity, I want you to think of your brain like a field of grass. Imagine that every thought, feeling, or action is like walking through that field. The more you walk the same path, the more worn down it becomes. Eventually, it becomes a clear, easy to follow trail. That's how negative thought patterns form. Over time, if you're always walking down the same trail of self-doubt or worry or negativity, it becomes the default path that your brain takes. So that's not great. But just like you can choose to create a new trail in that field, you can create new, healthier patterns in your brain. By changing how you think and act, you can actually form new neural connections in your brain. These new pathways can help you feel happier, less stressed, and more resilient over time. And while this process takes effort and consistency and time, it's entirely doable. Now, neuroplasticity doesn't just happen in response to extreme experiences like learning a new language or recovering from a brain injury. It also happens in response to everyday things like setting goals, challenging negative thoughts, or breaking out of your comfort zone. Every time you engage in one of these positive thought patterns or behaviors, you're reinforcing new pathways that help your brain adapt in ways that promote long term happiness. And there are some specific techniques that you can use to start rewiring your brain for happiness. And I'll be clear and straightforward, these aren't quick fixes, but with time and practice, they can make a real difference in terms of how you feel. So the first thing is goal setting. And this might sound simple, but it's incredibly effective. When we set clear, achievable goals like committing to read for 10 minutes a day or calling a friend once a week, we're giving our brains a target, something to work towards. And each time we accomplish a goal, our brain rewards us with a hit of dopamine. And over time, this reinforces a positive feedback loop where our brain starts to associate goal setting and achievement with happiness and satisfaction. So, what's key here is to start small, set goals that are realistic and achievable, even if they seem minor. Maybe it's something as small as drinking more water or going for a walk after dinner. The key is that it doesn't entirely matter what you're doing, but that you're achieving successes. And each success rewires your brain to focus on progress, and this creates a foundation for bigger changes. Another thing you can do is problem solving, because we all face challenges, but the way we approach those challenges can make all the difference. Instead of getting stuck in cycles of worry or avoidance, active problem solving helps us break down problems into smaller, more actionable, doable steps. So, for example, if you're overwhelmed by work, instead of thinking, I'll never get this all done, what you want to do is to ask yourself, what's one thing I can do today to make some progress? And what this does is it shifts your brain from panicky and overwhelmed to solution focused, which not only reduces stress in the moment, but also helps train your brain to be more resilient in the long run. And the more you practice this, the better your brain gets at approaching challenges with a clear, problem solving mindset rather than getting stuck in worry or negative thinking loops. Third thing you can do is behavioral activation. When we're feeling down or stressed, it's really tempting to avoid our usual activities, even the things that we know will probably make us feel better. Behavioral activation is about pushing through that avoidance. It's about intentionally scheduling activities that bring you a sense of enjoyment or reward, even when you don't feel like doing them. This could be anything from taking a short walk to spending time with friends or picking up a hobby that you used to love. By taking actions, you're sending a signal to your brain that you're engaging with life rather than avoiding or retreating from it. And over time, this reinforces the idea that you can do things to feel better, that you have some agency, and that this then creates a new neural pathway that makes it easier to seek out positive experiences in the future. Another thing you can do is to challenge your thoughts. Our thoughts have a huge impact on how we feel, and negative thoughts are often the biggest barrier to happiness. So the key is to learn to identify and challenge these unhelpful thoughts and unhelpful thinking patterns. And instead of accepting negative thoughts as truth, the idea is to ask yourself, what's the evidence for this thought? Is there another way to look at this or to think about it? So for example, if you're constantly telling yourself, I'm not good enough, the idea is to challenge the thought by asking, what evidence do I have that supports I'm not good enough? What's the evidence that contradicts the thought that I'm not good enough? By regularly questioning and reframing negative thoughts by looking at evidence, you weaken those well worn depression neural pathways and you start to create new ones that support more balanced, realistic thinking. So, the key idea is that happiness isn't just something we chase after, it's something that we can create by changing the way our brain works. And because of neuroplasticity, our brains are always adapting and always changing. And we can influence that change by using techniques like goal setting, problem solving, behavioral activation, and thought challenging. These brain changes don't happen overnight, But the more you use these techniques, the more you strengthen the neural pathways that lead to long-term happiness. And if you want to learn more about how cognitive behavioral therapy works and how it can change the way you feel through neuroplasticity, I'd encourage you to check out this video. So that's all for today's video. As always, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.